It's Q&A time! What's up, you guys? My name is Lily. I'm a fiber artist and knitwear designer, and I like to make things. I'm here with a video that I've been promising 1,000 subscribers ago, which is my 10K Q&A video. So I poured myself a fat glass of red wine. I'm wearing this halter top I made in my last video. I'm so obsessed with it. I'm also wearing these striped knit pants with it. I'm kind of obsessed with the little candy cane vibe. Okay, without further ado, let's get into it. Grab a glass of wine or a drink, a Coke, I don't fucking know. And let's do Q&A. Whoosh. Transition. A little about me, just for context to start this out. I'm a fiber artist. I'm a small business owner. I own a knitwear brand called Zoo. I've been doing it since February 2022. Not a fly, just like flying right by the lens. I've been doing it since February 2022. It's been so great. Another little tidbit is that I have a day job. So I work full time in addition to doing markets, running a small business, making clothes all the time, orders, Instagram, social media, YouTube, la 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 la. I have a full-time job. So I got a lot of questions on my full-time job. So why don't we just start with that? 11 Yellow Beagles says, not juicy, but I'm curious, what is your daytime job? So my daytime job is I'm a web analyst, which is so funny and random. I started doing that almost a year ago in January. I went to school for communications at the University of Washington. I'm from Seattle. I live in San Francisco. I did an internship out of college and then I got a job at a startup. Literally hate startups. I hate tech. I hate all of it. But that was the job that I had got after school, and beggars can't be choosers. So I worked for a startup doing community management, and then I ended up getting laid off because it was a startup and everybody was doing layoffs when there was like a bank crash. I don't know, that was like a while ago. I was unemployed for 4 months, desperately applying to any job I could see, obviously trying to do Fluby Zoo as much as I could, trying to do YouTube, not making enough money to live on unemployment. But thankfully I had a lot of savings, so I wasn't like totally fucked. And honestly, it was kind of an incredible time in my life where I didn't have a day job and I could just work on this stuff. And it wasn't paying the bills, but it was paying the bills of my heart. So that's what I was doing for a while. And then I got this job as a web analyst. So I've been doing this for a year, and I mainly just work on like WordPress websites. Like, it's not that serious. It's not for a tech company. It's for like a normal ass company based in Seattle. And I just love that energy. So that's what I've been doing in my daytime in addition to Fluby Zoo. So on that note, I got some questions like, do you still work full time? How do you manage your art and your work? Are you financially dependent on the business, or do you split time? If so, how is that for you? So like I said, I do not do this full time. I wish I did. You guys, let's manifest it. Manifest with me. I do have to split my time. And how do I manage it? I manage it very poorly. I mean, I don't know. It's difficult, but at the same time, I'm so passionate about what I do that it's almost just second nature. I'm so exhausted. At the end of the day, I fall asleep like in 1 second. I'm just doing stuff from like morning, noon to night. I usually wake up at 6:45 and just work on whatever project that I have to work on. And then I start like working my day job, and then any breaks that I can, I like keep working on fiber art stuff. And then in the evening, I keep working on fiber art stuff until I have to make dinner. And then by the time I'm done with dinner, I'm pretty much dead in a ditch. So that's kind of how I balance it. I'm so passionate about it that I can't stop. I'm literally like the Energizer Bunny. Like, lately I've been feeling like I have an infinite reserve of energy. It's almost scaring me that I just have so much energy. Basically, I do overwork myself, and I'm sure a lot of small business owners can relate. The one thing that I always make time for is exercise. So I do work out 5 days a week, and it literally keeps me sane and also just makes me feel amazing. I love exercising, so I do like dance workouts. Cannot recommend them enough. I have talked about them in like all my YouTube videos. And Fitness, shout out to those fucking bitches. Sorry. Shout out to those women. They literally make my day all the time. So I do dance workouts. I also do running, and I ride my bike a lot, and I go for walks. So exercise is really important for me. That keeps me grounded. I feel like that's the one thing I will always do for myself. So I've also gotten quite a few questions about doing more tutorials, sentro videos, because I kind of got started doing sentro videos. I'm gonna take a sip of wine for this. This one says, do you still intend on using your sentro machine? We need more tutorials on that, please. And I love you guys so much. The Sentro is kind of dead for me, and not dead in a ditch, but it is dead. I know that's kind of how I started on YouTube, and it was how I got into knitting machines in general, but the capabilities are so limited. And since this is a passion project for me, I don't want to do anything that doesn't make me happy, i.e. using a machine that I wouldn't normally use to like make tutorials. You know, like I want to be doing this because I enjoy it. So for me, I don't see a Sentro video in my future, unfortunately. My yarn just went off. I don't see a sentro video in my future, unfortunately, but I still have a ton of other tutorials that you guys might want to use that are still great. The machine, I would say, is very easy to hack. Just use that baby as much as you can. Figure out how to engineer it to work for you. That's kind of what I did. And you can make so many things with a flat panel, I'll tell you that much. I did also get questions about if I'd ever do like a flatbed knitting machine tutorial or like teach classes. This is way more likely than a sentro tutorial, but I'm not quite sure yet. Honestly, I could see being a really good resource for this because there's not a lot of knitting machine resources out there. I mean, there are a lot on YouTube, but they're all like really old videos that are made by very iconic women who are so knowledgeable and amazing. But there's not a lot of like current resources, and like even the software that knitting machines use is really outdated. I just bought an electronic knitting machine that I'm really excited about, but the software that you use with it is literally from the 90s and it's like not updated, which it's kind of fun, but you know, I think it could be a cool resource and maybe I could do a knitting machine series. Let me know if there's interest about that in the comments, because even though this is a passion project, I would be willing to teach classes or teach knitting machine basics to you guys if you're interested, because I'm way more passionate about the flatbed machines than the sentro. I also do like teaching. I feel like I'm kind of good at it, especially with tutorials. So let me know in the comments if you want knitting machine classes or tutorials or anything like that. Similarly, someone said, how have you found owning a knitting machine? Would you recommend? Knitting machine, no doubt, changed my life in so many ways. I would recommend the shit out of it. If you're someone like me who is passionate about knits and creating things, could not recommend it enough. I got my Brother KX350. That's my first knitting machine. It's a very beginner friendly, like at home type knitting machine. It's literally made from plastic. I got it on Facebook Marketplace for $150, and since I sell clothes that I make, it's paid for itself a million times over. Not that I'm making $1 million, but it's paid for itself within like the first month. So I could not recommend it enough. It's expanded my world in terms of design capabilities, what I can make, but it also has expanded my world in terms of opportunities. Like I've made dresses on that knitting machine that have got the attention of like really amazing people who want to get stuff from me because of it. You know what I mean? Like when you make art and you put it out there, it connects you with other artists, it expands your world, it connects you to more opportunities. So for me, it's been incredible. I could not recommend it enough. Once you know how to use it, it's like second nature. So one question I got was, how did you get into crafts? Do you like drawing or do any kind of arts as a kid? I've always been someone who was drawn to fashion and art. I love physical things. I have OCD. I'm suspicious that I might have ADHD as well. And I've just always loved physical art and crafts. Some of my first memories with fashion were watching Disney movies. My friend Christina, when I was in preschool, had all the bougie princess costumes that I didn't have. And I remember we would go to her house after a half day of preschool and try on her princess dresses and feel like the most like beautiful, cute girls in the world. And then her mom would make us cookies and we would watch like a show, and it was literally heaven on earth to me. And that is my first memory of loving fashion, is those princess dresses. I remember the first time I asked my mom if I could dress myself, and I remember my sister made fun of me because I wore a lot of browns together and she said I was clashing. And it's kind of funny now because I'm obsessed with like monochrome. I love monochrome looks, and I'm like, I guess it started at a really early age. And other than that, I've always been drawn to physical crafts, like I said. So I used to make beaded jewelry when I was a kid. I have like Santa pictures where I wore like the necklace I'd made with these like translucent blue beads, and I just was so in love with the hardware of the jewelry and that it looked so official, and I've just always loved it. I mean, I'm an earth sign, I'm a Virgo, so I feel that I'm drawn to like Mother Earth. I'm drawn to physical art, I'm drawn to nature, and I feel like all of those things kind of combine really beautifully to make someone who wants to make physical art. Kind of similarly, someone asked, how did you learn to use a knitting machine? Because there are not many YouTube videos. So I am completely self-taught, and it is just from YouTube. So honestly, starting on a sentro is really great. I learned so much. There are a lot of sentro videos because it became super popular recently, and there's a ton of videos that you can learn how to use a sentro on. And basically, when you understand the basic mechanics of a knit panel, the world is kind of your oyster. I also have that background in sewing and like like fashion just since, you know, early high school. I would always like thrift, and I would hem and sew and alter my clothes all the time. And I've made clothing garments before, so I do have a basic understanding of like how clothing garments are made, and a lot of trial and error. Don't underestimate those videos, because they might not show you how to make a whole dress, but they might show you how to do the things you need to make the dress, if that makes sense. You know, think outside of the box. You can do it. You can do it. Oh my God, jump scare editing Lily. Also totally forgot to mention that the manuals that my knitting machines came with are so helpful. So sometimes they come with the actual manual that the machine came with originally, and I learned a lot from reading those manuals. So try to get a machine with a manual or find a PDF online. You'll learn a lot from those. I got a few questions about how did you get started with your business? What made you want to have a business? Like I said, I've been doing this since February 2022. And how did I get started? So during the pandemic, I learned how to crochet because I became obsessed with knitwear. I don't know why. Maybe it was like the cozy vibes of like lockdown, but I've always been a very DIY person, if you can't tell. I don't want to buy it. I would rather make it. I'd rather learn. I'd rather do it myself. I'd rather it be perfect. I'd rather be everything I wanted. So I got really into sweaters, and then I thought like, why don't I learn how to crochet? And I need to fill my time with something. I need to make art. It just is who I am. So I just started crocheting, and I kind of never stopped. And I've made so many things during that time. I've learned so much about clothing construction, new designs. I found a lot of my style during that time period, and I would just kind of make stuff and wear it. And people would always be like, oh my God, you made that? Like, you should sell that. And again, I've always wanted to get into fashion. So one day I just thought, okay, fine, I will. Like, I'll just sell it. You know, what do I have to lose? I'll just make some stuff and sell it. And that's when I started Voobie-Zoo. So that was February 2022. I was selling only handmade crochet garments. Here's some pictures of all the stuff that I used to make. And that's kind of where it picked up. And I just kept posting stuff. People would buy them. I would post reels. I would make content. I owe pretty much all of my growth to Instagram Reels. I had a few reels that went super viral, like 50 million views. Reels helped me grow a lot, and that helped grow my business. But I will say that the growth you get from Reels isn't the best when it comes to like sales and engagement. So I've noticed that because of all that growth I got from Reels, like my followers aren't as engaged with my content. I feel like they don't have as much of an investment in me because of how they found me. And so that's kind of like a double-edged sword, where you have more followers, but they're not like valuable followers. I'm gonna make a video about this, by the way, so I don't want to get into it too much, but that's what I owe my growth to pretty much. Instagram Reels, posting a lot, and I guess making clothes people like. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And I love it, if you can't tell. Sorry, I hope I don't sound annoying. Next question is, how did you price your crochet and knitwear to be fairly paid? This is a great question, I feel like, for other small business owners or people who are interested in getting into it. And it's definitely tricky. And sometimes it feels really arbitrary. When I started selling my pieces, I was selling them for dirt cheap. Honestly, I think I was selling tops for like 50 bucks. That would probably take me like 5 hours to make, at least, probably 5 to 10. So I started selling them really cheap because I didn't have the confidence or the efficacy really to sell pieces for that expensive. I was still learning, and I was still really new, and it was a lot of passion. So I priced them really low, and I just figured, what do I have to lose? But then when I started getting more and more traction and more attention and more demand, that's when I knew I needed to raise my prices. So when I had so many orders that I didn't have time to do them all in the time window that I said I could do them, that's when I knew I needed to raise prices. So it kind of has just been a gradual increase since the beginning, until I finally felt like I hit a plateau of like actually fair prices. I think I started selling this crochet mini dress for $125. I believe it's $275 now. I don't sell it on my site anymore, but last it was on was $275. So you can see that big difference there. At the end of the day, you need to pay yourself fairly. And if people want to buy it, then that is great. And if they don't, then they don't. Like, you shouldn't sell yourself short. The other thing is learning from the market a little bit. If no one wants to pay a price for something that you've made, maybe the design isn't intriguing enough. Maybe you should switch gears to a different design. You know, learn from what people are interested in, what people are willing to pay, and sort of shift away from designs that people aren't willing to pay for the price, because it is expensive, you know? I also learned from that when it comes to making clothes that, you know, maybe nobody is willing to pay a fair price for a garment that no one really wants. You know what I mean? Not that, you know, whoever asked this is making stuff like that, but just from my personal experience. So yeah, it was a gradual thing, but you definitely build up your confidence as time goes on. I think you build up your efficacy. Maybe you build build up your skill level. I'm not sure where your skill level is at, but at the end of the day, price your items fairly and just wait for people to buy them because you're worth it. So the next question is what/who inspires your work? I love this question. I get inspiration from many different areas. I believe that every different facet of art that you watch, you consume, you make, you learn influences each other. So I get a lot of inspiration from old movies I used to watch. I obviously get inspiration from fashion from the street, fashion from magazines, fashion from movies. I get inspiration from photography. I used to be really into photography. I used to love reading. I just get all this inspiration from all those different places. I think of like old movie references. I think of like beautiful sunsets I've seen. I think of like old books. I think of different vibes and atmospheres I want to emulate. So I get inspiration from every piece of art that I've ever made or learned, and it really influences my work now. And I feel like I love that well-roundedness of art, and I love a piece of art that's influenced from many different areas, not just fashion. You know what I mean? So I get a lot of inspiration from just movies and books and anywhere you can find art in the world. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's like everywhere. Like I go on walks and I get inspired. Inspiration isn't always direct. Sometimes it's subconscious. You know, being in nature inspires me, even though I'm not necessarily making like a tree. I get inspiration from that all the time. I would say that's one of my biggest inspirations.
Editing Lily is back. This time I did my hair. A more concise way of saying what I'm trying to say is that I think that you can learn a skill that has nothing to do with fashion and it can still influence and inspire fashion, if that makes sense. You can learn how to watercolor and it might make you a better fashion designer. So I think that all art can creatively influence other art in your life. It can make you conceptualize things differently. If you're a woodworker, you might be good at conceptualizing interesting silhouettes for fashion. You know what I'm saying? So I think I like to learn a lot about different types of art and engage in a lot of different types of art to make better fashion, if that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, this one's kind of funny. How do you advertise work in a non-embarrassing way? I'm scared to start and look dumb. Totally feel that. I feel stupid all the time. It is truly embarrassing, but it's not, because when it comes to pricing your work, like I was saying earlier, you just put that shit in the world and you can say, take it or fucking leave it. I don't care. This is my worth. That's how I felt about advertising my work and making videos and posting content, is like, take it or leave it. I don't care. I'm putting myself out there and it's really not for anybody but myself at the end of the day. So I just do it. No one has to watch and I really don't care who watches, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how I started, where I was just like, I'm passionate about this. I'm not going to be embarrassed about it. And I just started posting videos, and that's kind of how I started getting over that hump. I totally relate though. I still look at old pictures and videos of myself and I'm just like, oh, so embarrassing. I definitely don't want to watch them. But you know what? I'm not gonna shit on myself for trying, and you shouldn't either, because if you're passionate about this, put yourself out there. This might be the difference between a world of opportunity and change for you, and it's so worth it when you put yourself out there. So just fucking do it. And you're not dumb, and no one can make you look dumb. Nobody can make you look dumb. Don't fucking worry about that shit. Next question is, how did you find your style? That's kind of a hard question. My style has evolved a lot since I started. One thing I've always been drawn to is color. Since before I was making knits, I was always dressing colorfully because, number one, a lot of insecurity as a child, not wanting to stand out, feeling like I wanted to hide because I felt like I was hideous. And I've always been kind of a stubborn person, and I really reject being rejected. I really reject these social constructs that we put on ourselves. And one day I was just like, even though my insecurities are real, I really reject this force that's on me, and I really want to be confident because I really don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, even though I am insecure, and I was ready to really embrace that attitude. So that's kind of why I started just kind of wearing whatever the fuck I wanted, because my life is my own and it's nobody else's. So no one is gonna control me and dim my light, you know what I mean? And it's not for anybody but me. So it's like, why worry what anybody else thinks? So I think that was a huge influence about my style, and also growing up in Seattle. It was tough with the weather, I will say that much. Seasonal depression is so real. I have horrible anxiety. One way I was able to cope with that bad weather was to dress colorfully. And I was like, it might be gray and the sun might set at 4:30, but I'm gonna wear a bright red furry coat to my classes at school, and it's gonna make me happy. That's the best that I can do. So that's kind of how I got into color as well. And that's sort of how I found my style. I just, you know, I just wore clothes I just wore clothes that made me happy. I guess one of the themes in this whole video is just worry about what you want. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't do anything for anybody else. Worry about you. And the art you put out isn't really for anybody else. It's for you. And when you follow that compass, that's how you find your style, and that's how you find your passions, and that's how you live without fear. You know what I mean? I mean, I do have fears and anxieties and embarrassments, but those are like cognitive distortions. Like, I push through them every day because those aren't my values. I want to live like fearlessly. That's my value. Even though I'm a human, I obviously have all these insecurities. I don't let it control me. So that's kind of how I found my style. And then it kind of evolved, I think, to be more refined. So when I first started, it was like color, lots of stripey chaos. And I still love that. And I definitely still make stuff like that. But I think it's gotten more refined in the sense of like, maybe I'll do 2 colors. Like, I've been really into contrast colors. I started out with these basic building blocks, and then I just refined them by making more and more stuff. I've always been obsessed with cutouts. I'm doing them a little bit differently now. And yeah, I don't know, just keep making stuff. And that's how I found my style. All right, I had to charge my battery a little bit and I turned on my fairy light. We have 3 more questions. Let's start with, what trends have you been enjoying in the fiber world today? I have been really into stripes. As you can see, I love stripes. I love contrast colors. I'm loving like subversive knits. So like distressing, mesh, translucency, sexy, risque. I'm also loving like peplums and ruffles and layers. I've been seeing these like very like princessy, like almost like crinoline, like a crinoline would go over these like massive knit skirts and stuff like that. I'm just loving like gaudiness and layers and texture and like unexpectedness when it comes to knits, you know? When you think of knits, you think of like a boxy sweater. So I'm just loving all the shit that's online. It's crazy. What's your most and least favorite thing about being a fiber artist full-time? So as you guys know, I'm not a full-time fiber artist, manifesting that one day. But my most favorite thing about being a fiber artist is living my passion and my dream. It's creatively so fulfilling for me. It really makes me more confident, and I have so much like more self-worth because I'm like living my passion. It just fills my cup 100%. My least favorite thing about being a fiber artist full-time is definitely the pressure and the social media. I always feel like I'm not doing enough. I always compare myself to other people, and I always feel like I'm not documenting enough. I feel like I'm not creating enough. There's not enough output. I'm not posting on YouTube enough. I'm not ever doing anything good enough is how I feel. And I've talked to my boyfriend about this at length. I feel like I wear every single hat and I don't wear any of them very well. Sorry, the fly's still. And it can be really frustrating and it can be discouraging when you put all this effort and time into something and it feels like it's not going to pay off. I always have to ground myself, remember why I do this. Like I keep saying, it's for me, and that's why I keep going, because the truth is that I just freaking love it. But yeah, there's just a lot of pressure. The last question is, what is your major challenge in the knitting community? I wanted to end on like maybe a juicier one, but for me, it's definitely social media in every single way. Social media in terms of content production. I am not very good at it. It's not my passion. You can just tell in the videos, but it's kind of just something you have to do if you want to have a business. And it's so challenging for me. So honestly, this is my turn to ask you guys for some advice. Please, if anyone has content creation advice, how to make it work when you are already making clothes 24/7, how do you make good content? This fly is literally a paid actor. So yeah, that's my biggest challenge. Social media is definitely my op. Like I literally, all my homies hate social media.
Except for YouTube. I love you guys.
And that concludes the 10K Q&A, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video and getting to know me a little bit more. I had a lot of fun filming it, and I want this to be a mutual relationship. So drop a little bit about yourself in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching the 10K Q&A. Thank you guys so much for 10,000 subscribers. We're almost at 11,000, which is really cool, but also bad that it took me so long to make this video. I'm so grateful for you, and I appreciate your time so much. If you like fiber arts and knitwear and designing and process and studio vlogs and small business tips and advice, subscribe if you want to see more of that. Thank you guys again so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.